The Beatles Get Back. So those of you that might be out of the loop, back in '69, during this weird period for the Beatles, Brian Epstein was he was dead, and they were directionless. They were trying to figure out what their next step was. They said, well, let's make a new album. You know, we've had a couple bangers before. This is right at the edge there where tensions are high. You know, people are looking to separate. Ringo already left. He came back. So things are in a weird place. So on top of making a new album, they're also like, well, we should maybe do a live performance. Where are we going to do it? Who knows? But we also should have something to go along with the live footage or the TV special we do. And that is the documentary. So this documentary shot 60 hours of footage. And it sat in a storage room and did nothing until Peter Jackson, who I think before this he just finished that They Will Not Be Forgotten, where he restored the color for a bunch of old World War II footage. I guess he's the next logical step is the next biggest milestone in the world, and that of course is Beatlemania. So we'll take all this 60 hours of footage from the Beatles, we'll condense it into one 6-hour film, but then it's I can't condense it into one 6-hour film, so it's going to be 3 parts on Disney Plus, each about over 2.5 hours. They are right around that mark. The last part is 2:18. And I know what you're thinking. It's that's a lot of Beatles. That's a lot of stuff to get into. But even if you are not a huge fan of the Beatles, if you just know them through passing, I think this documentary, this 3-part series, is almost must-watch television, because it is just this perfect time capsule of the crew of the Beatles, and you're just that's awesome. But it's also this is the writing process, this is the creative process literally distilled down for you to see. It's just watching these powerhouses of what they do. You love the Beatles or you don't. They are talented guys who know how to play almost every instrument that they have in their band. They know what they're doing, and you are just sitting there watching these 4 talented dudes break down their process of creating a piece of art. And that's pretty cool. And it's very impressive to see just how smart and how talented they actually are when it comes to that. It looks great. The footage itself is very fascinating. It's shot very much in those early days of documentaries where a lot of zoom-ins, a lot of just focus cuts. Everything with that is very fantastic. But I think this remastered just colors really bring it to life. It just looks spectacular, and everybody just feels almost like they're being acted. It feels like it's a stage production or something, just because it's so distilled and just perfect, where it's this is just such a precise way of speaking and thinking and creating that it doesn't feel authentic. It just feels almost like it was created for the documentary as opposed to being their natural behavior, which is really weird to say because it's just so perfectly condensed, the process of creating stuff. There's literally 20-minute segments broken out in this thing where we're just listening to them figure out the tune to a song, the lyrics to a song, how they're going to compose something perfectly. And I think that is really impressive, especially if you are somebody who is a creator of any kind. I think most specifically, though, if you're a writer of any kind and you're seeing how you slowly break the process, maybe this doesn't work, you start again, maybe this needs to change, you do something different to this part, you put that part at the beginning or at the end. It's just such organized chaos in a sense, only the way that a creative type could really focus in and do that stuff. So that's really impressive. I loved seeing that, and I am a fan of the Beatles, and just hearing them just riffing for a bit, playing whatever song they want, just doing whatever they want while they're trying to figure out how to get their album done is very impressive. Now, during this time with the Beatles, things are very tense. There is a lot of hostility that is not spoken, but easily felt. You know, you see there's certain things, I'm not going to criticize anybody involved or anything, but there are certain moments that if you are have a passing familiarity with the Beatles, Yoko is almost in every scene that John is there. She's hovering over him. That happens every time everybody arrives to set. The first to show up is Ringo, the last to show up is John. You see Paul is really the one trying to keep everyone together. He is clearly steering the ship at this point. He's saying it throughout the documentary, we need that leadership, we need that focus, somebody who can reel us in and get the product done. because there is a lot of back and forth in here where you're just seeing these people like, do we do the live show? Do we do the TV special? Where do we host the venue? How do we get this done? Do we like this studio? Do we go to a different studio? It's pretty insane. And it's just like, he's really doing an okay job here. You get the sense, and of course, I don't know if this is fact or not, you get the sense that Paul's the one that was really keeping it together. He was trying just to get everybody in the room, sit down, make the thing, keep the music flowing, keep the energy and the vibe going the way that they have worked for so long, especially now. Again, this isn't like in the era where they're all wearing matching suits and haircuts. These guys are clearly looking to do something new, and especially George. Like, I like George. I've always liked George. But you get the sense throughout this entire production, he is both ignored and annoyed at everybody, and it feels like he's ready to go. And there's certain moments where, if you know anything about the history of the Beatles, there are certain moments in here where, yeah, George is on the outs. And it takes some reluctance to get him to kind of like come back to like the moment with what they're doing. And that is just an impressive thing to see through this footage, because that's a seminal moment, I think, for these people, where you just see that's kind of like the last, you know, like straw on the camel's back. That like, it's like, okay, they can make this, do their next thing, but that's it. Like, they are pretty much done for this, and it's just really weird to see. You know, there's a lot of people commenting on this online, where it's like looking at like the Fab Four as this like writer's room. And I'm like, that is a really great way to look at it, because Paul is obviously steering the ship, trying to get the new ideas flowing, trying to get everybody focused. John is the veteran who knows what he's doing, but doesn't really input anything. He just like, I'll play whatever you want. George is the one who is ignored. His ideas aren't being pushed forward and nobody's thinking about it. And Ringo is just there, just doing what they need him to do. And that is very fascinating. And it works really well. Like, I don't know how you just like capture the pacing of like literally like 21 days so perfectly in 7 hours, but you made it work, Peter Jackson, because there is a full story at the end of each part. There's full conclusions to each day. We see the start of the day, we see the end of the day, and all the big conflicts in between. It is very fascinating. It is very intense. The music is fantastic, even when they're just riffing and having fun. It looks like they know what they're doing, and it just sounds fantastic. I'm sure they enhanced the audio for some of this, because some of those files are like decades old now. You'd think some of them would be lost to the sidelines, but you never know. It's very impressive, and it's just really impactful if you are, like I said, a creator or you're a writer, because it's just watching people who are perfect at their craft just honing in, working out the small details, working out the kinks to make something work, and that is really cool to see. It's almost like it's almost like a Bible, if you will, for somebody who wants to write, because you're just seeing the minute details to make everything work so perfectly. You're seeing how it's supposed to be laid out and how it's supposed to be put together. It is impressive. And yeah, sometimes there's conflict, sometimes there are things that don't get hashed out properly, and sometimes things just fall to the wayside. But at the end of the day, you can't argue with the results that these guys got for this album. They literally made an album in like 3 weeks, which is super impressive and almost unheard of at some points, just especially when you got these big of egos working against each other to create a product. It's very impressive. It just looks great. The colors are fantastic. The music is amazing. You love them. And again, we see it in some like their earlier films, who's obviously the one that works the best on camera. Ringo just knows how to play up his part. And he is like the unsung hero of this. He is the one that kind of keeps people together and on track. He's also the most interesting to see on screen, because he knows that they all know they're being watched by the documentary. But Ringo just is like, yeah, I mean, just have fun with it. That's what we're doing here. That is what we're a part of. And that just worked surprisingly well. It was really fantastic to see. There's one sequence at the beginning that I'm going to get more to in another video, where we just see Paul just casually creating Let It Be. That is just perfect, because that's how it goes. It just comes from anywhere. Creativity comes from anywhere. It just sparks your interest at any point in time. And this is probably the quintessential Beatles documentary. I mean, it's the most interesting for sure. It's not just talking about how good these guys are. You're seeing them break down every little thing they do, and it's very cool to see. And it flows by really fast. You are not going to feel the drag at this at all. You're going to love every second, every piece of dialogue, every time with these guys is great. The way they talk about the future and like their their personal futures in the band or without the band, very interesting to hear. Just seeing like that point in time with who they're working with and what they're singing about. It's very fascinating and very interesting. and it's just like a must watch if you are a creative type, because this is how the process goes. It's distilled down perfectly for you here, and it's something you gotta check out. So the Beatles Get Back. This documentary is great, and I am going to give it a 9 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, get back to where you once belong. Bam, bam.